We are the keepers of the flame, the sacred order. Let the ceremony begin. And today, Faithful Acolytes, we take a look at this. And what this is the Smart Way hot sauce. So, this is one of many products from Kroger. They've got several sublines that they produce. This is, the Smart Way is the designator for all the very, very lower priced. It's not like Private Selection. It's a lower tier. So this is basically your knockoff store brand, the Smart Way stuff, the dish soap, all kinds of things that they've got in there. So, and I've seen this on the shelf for a while, and it didn't seem like anything that was going to be much interest to me. But as things turn out, I'm out of Louisiana style sauce. And it's going to be a bit before I do a re-up trip. So I thought, all right, in light of that, I might as well give it a shot. And if it's any good, then great. I've got a really good backup. And if not, it's $1.50 for 12 fluid ounces. So, I mean, that's not much of a gamble. All right, so let's take a look at the ingredients here. We have cayenne, red peppers, vinegar, salt, xanthan gum, and dehydrated garlic. So, for some of you, that exact ingredient panel will seem very familiar. And if you've already read the written review, the link to which, by the way, is in the description below if you care to do that, you already know what I'm about to say. But, there's a restrictor cap. But there's a reason that this seems familiar. So I bought this under the idea that it was going to be more or less a Louisiana style sauce, even though there is the garlic and whatnot in it. And I guess you would say it pretty much is more or less that. Color is right. We've got this nice red-orange stuff. We've got, I mean, it looks maybe not as watery as a Louisiana style. I mean, to me, it's a little bit more of a Cajun sauce, but those two, of course, are fairly closely related. So everything looks right, everything smells right. Let's get into the taste. All right. Here's the part where those of you who already read the review know what I'm going to say. These sort of store brand items generally are clones of other sauces. The Private Selection is a line meant to stand on its own. And in many cases, Private Selection winds up being more expensive than a lot of the other name brands. It's sort of a boutique line. This one, though, is definitely meant to be a clone, and it is meant to be a clone of arguably the most well-known hot sauce probably on the planet. I shouldn't say that. All right, so here's a discussion. Sriracha is very well-known worldwide. Frank's Red Hot, I think, is probably one of the more well-known sauces in America. It plays heavily into things like sports games, right? So when you have allegedly 1 billion people tuning into stuff like the Super Bowl, that is 1/8 of the world right there. A lot of people who, if they wind up watching the commercials, if the commercials are the same, I don't know if they are, but with all the sports figures in the Frank's Red Hot media sphere, right, it wouldn't surprise me if they were at least familiar with the name. And if not the slogan of putting that shit on everything. So that I think is kind of funny. And if it were me, it would be I put that shit in with shit in capital letters and everything else very small text on everything. I'm not a fan of Frank's. I don't hate it. I think it's just a their sauce. It's just kind of there. It's just kind of eh. It just it's better than nothing. And I think that is exactly where this fits into. Although I think the flavor of this one is slightly better than Frank's is. I'm not a fan of the Frank's flavor. Boy, almost tripped on that one. I'm not really a fan of what they're doing with that sauce. This one, though, it seems to me that a lot of the elements in this are muted. This is not a very aggressively anything sauce. It's not. Certainly, there's a vinegar presence. Certainly, there's a cayenne. There's a little backcurrent, I would say, of garlic. None of it is very forceful. This is a very if you think of those things as so editing videos, right? There's a thing that you can call turning down the opacity of something, which means that you're adding more transparency to it. And that's when you can see ghost images of things on top of other things, depending on how you do it. That's one of the ways that we do things like put text on videos, right? So this would be like a diminished version of Frank's with the opacity turned down, with a lot of the punch turned down, I guess is how I would phrase it. I like this better than Frank's, but not a lot. This is not, to me, a very great sauce. It does do well, though, for what I want to do, which is to be there in a pinch. I actually wish it had more of a vinegar charge to it, which is one of the things I tend to like more about the Louisiana-style sauces, but for what it is, it's fine. I think it mimics Frank's fairly well. And Frank's isn't very expensive to begin with. This is about, I think, maybe half of the cost of Frank's, maybe half to a third of how much Frank's is. So I find this idea kind of entertaining. But anyway, I don't know who's producing this. I have no idea. It doesn't say out here, obviously. It's a relabel of something. But the ingredients are identical to Frank's. All right, so we've got here Marie Callender's creamy Vermont mac and cheese bowl, and we need to get some. Let's get a little benchmark here of this. We need to get this is not a product I like by itself. So we're going to get some of this in there. And then I don't like just having noodles and cheese. That's not a thing I like. So I made up some popcorn shrimps. We'll throw them all in there. So we're going to have basically, we're using that one, I guess. So we're going to have basically a popcorn shrimp and Vermont white cheddar macaroni and cheese bowl. It's something that I haven't done a lot of, to put fried foods in macaroni and cheese, but I actually kind of like it. I think the contrast works pretty well. Be it fried chicken or shrimps. This is definitely improving this by quite a bit. It's just not very forceful as far as flavor goes. Which I find kind of puzzling. Dominant flavor, I would say, is definitely the cayenne vinegar mix. It could be something unlisted. Could be the xanthan gum. I mean, there's a few things that can contribute to that sort of soothing mix. I will say that, surprisingly, there is a little bit of a punch to this. I mean, this isn't gonna... It's not gonna wow anybody. But, well, that's a great sauce or anything like that. I think I would call it adequate. It does the job. That's about it. No real elevation, just doing the job. If you're gonna clone something, if you're gonna clone only one thing, it probably does make sense to pick one of the more popular hot sauces. If not the most popular in the United States. It's a little hard. Well, there's Frank's Red Hot Goldfish I saw recently. There's chips and snack foods. Which, I mean, you can't discount. It's a big deal for Tapatio when they got in there. Tapatio is actually on... Those are ramen noodles now, of all things. Tapatio is pretty good in ramen, though. Anyway, point being that I think we would have to restrict it to just purely bottles of hot sauce sold. And certainly Sriracha, the Huifang Sriracha is still going to be in the mix. Probably Cholula is. It'd be interesting to see. I don't think there's a way you could actually tell, though. Because you'd be relying on the companies themselves to be honest with how many bottles they sold. Depending on what their distribution model is, though, there might have been stuff that, that's where you kind of say, okay, so we're talking consumer sales, or we're talking distribution sales, what are we talking about? So I think it makes things a little challenging to figure out what is the most popular, best-selling hot sauce or whatever. There's a lot of factors that sort of defy data. Given how much Frank's is spending on stuff, though, certainly they would have to be in the conversation. No question about that. All right, so yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's solid. It's for what it is. It does well. The last Frank's I had, I don't think I've ever bought a bottle of it. I mean, I've had it a number of times, but I don't think I've ever purchased it for myself, other than the extra hot. I go with the extra hot. There's a review and, of course, a video on that if you're interested. I didn't finish that bottle, though, because I didn't think that was a very good sauce. This one, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's a good do in a pinch sauce. It's not, again, not what I would call great flavor. It doesn't hit the notes I would have hoped that it would have, but it's fine for what they're going for. It's not a great sauce overall. I don't think it's trying to be. anything that is slightly more than a dime per ounce. I mean, that includes the cap, that includes the glass, includes the labeling. All that's included in that $1.49 shelf price. I don't know how you would get a great sauce out of that. You get a functional sauce. You get a adequate sauce. And that really more or less is what this is. I would say it skews a bit more towards Cajun than the strictly Louisiana style, but for what it is, I mean, it's fine. I have no problems with this. I probably will finish this just because the flavor is so muted. I wound up having to use more of it, but I mean, $1.49, who cares? Use the entire bottle if you need to at that level. So, yeah, I mean, it'll do as a holdover until I get something better. Kind of like IKEA, right? Good enough for now. So we'll leave it there. That is the Smart Way hot sauce. Now go forth in peace to serve the flame.